Q theory is a lie. Allow me to explain. The books of Matthew and Luke were not copied from the Book of Mark and a mysterious lost gospel. The lost gospel in question being the Injil, because the resurrection in the Book of Matthew, whilst Christ was on the cross, explaining how many rose from their graves, was prophesized in the Book of Ezekiel, being the first of three distinct resurrections throughout the entire Bible, the latter two being explained in the Book of Revelation, which are titled first and second, but are second and third in the entirety of biblical research. The fact that Matthew's account of the first of three biblical resurrections haven't been fulfilled based off Ezekiel's prophecy in the Old Testament, similar to the coming Messiah in the Old Testament and fulfilled in the New Testament. And the substantial historical data we have of several thousand records reflecting missing coffins and vacant graveyards from archaeological and historical records support this data, combined with historical research of the biblical contents, historical authenticity, all comprising the hypothesis that debunks Q theory, as Q theory contradicts and attempts to claim the Book of Matthew is false, which also attempts to claim Matthew's account of a resurrection while Christ was on the cross to also be false, which would also assert Ezekiel to be false. And there are over 200 pieces of evidence supporting the authenticity of the Book of Ezekiel, and more than a dozen pieces of evidence supporting the authenticity of the Book of Ezekiel, and more than a dozen pieces of evidence supporting the historical significance of the Book of Matthew. You know, evidence for Q. apostles, Darwin's theory was actually backwards. See historical text in Quran, ancient Sumerian, Greek and Roman, where all ancient theological texts as well as the post-Christian Quran explain how God had turned a certain people of man into apes. This is how the Yeti, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, assert came into existence, which is a proven fact of their existence. Your theory is nothing but an unsubstantiated claim to deceive people against Christ, just as Darwinism and anthropology was. This academic realization is also how we asserted the fact that the leader, was indeed anti-Christian, along with inaccurate and deceiving interpretations of biblical prophecy videos. There is skulltuckle Islamic roots in their motto we identified and proved, and their stereotypical actions that are synonymous with biblical prophecies. Deception of the false prophet, which we identified as also being the Quranic Dajjal and Nostradamus third Antichrist mobbers, whom we identified as the still alive. Osama bin Laden, which we proved beyond a reasonable doubt, is still very much alive on the YouTube channel, lending credibility with several pieces of evidence